All right, so in this video, we're going to make some games and make some games. All right, so the first thing we want to do is make the enemy stat widget. So we'll go into RPG in a box, and then we'll go UI editor widgets and hit the plus. Now we'll call this enemy stat background. Hit OK. So there's our widget, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put an image to fill this whole widget here. And we do have to change the grids. We're going to make this 16 by 11. We're actually 11 by 16. Got that backwards. Okay. And initial position, we'll put it towards the right, so center right. And then what we don't need to see the frame. And the frame is like the my widget and then all this around here. And I already turned it off. Yeah, so we don't need to see that frame. All we want to see is this right here, just the grids. And then this is the space that we can make our design on and, figure out where we want to lay out our buttons and all that stuff. Now we'll go ahead and save this, and we'll hit print screen on your computer. Open up your photo editing program. And we'll do a new document. And I'm using 1920 by 1080. And then when that loads, we want to do Control V, and that's going to paste it in there. Now what you want to do is kind of zoom in. And we want to crop this. This is the image size that we're going to use. So get a pretty good crop on it. So you want to make sure you can see the outside edge. If our design's a little bit bigger, then try to get the closer you get it towards those lines, the better, but you don't want to go inside those lines. So this should work. Once you have this, then you're ready to start designing. Now I already laid it out over here, so this one's already done. It's the same thing, 16 by 11, but I already created the design for it. Now you should have this, and if you have this, it should be on another layer. So we go back to this one. My grid's on this layer, and then that's my background. So you should have the same thing. You should have two layers. Now on this layer that has the grids, set that to linear dodge, and what's going to happen is when you bring in an image, you can still see the grid lines. That way when you start designing, then you'll know exactly where to put your buttons and everything. Now in this image here, I made a mask. I mean, you can do like a square design if you want, but what I did was I made a mask and I just drew some lines in to kind of get this little effect. That way it's not so boxy and it just looks a little bit better when we're designing the stat card. Also the cool thing is, let's say I want to use this one. I can use this mask as a template, so any enemies I put, I can use the same template here, or the same mask. So now this character now has the same design. That way that it's all uniform. So whatever character that it is that you want to use. Next thing I did was put a space to write the name. So the name of this character is right there, so we'll just call him Goblin Warrior. So I already made that. And then the next three things I did was put in the attack, defense, and speed. Now this information here, we're going to do this inside of RPG in a box. Now the name we're going to have as part of this design, so I'm not going to have the name automatically as a text layer for the next widget that we're going to make. It's just going to be a static with this image. All this is going to be one, if that makes any sense. And then the next three things I'm doing is just the attack, defense, and speed. And then these will be on the card. I mean, you can make these as part of the widget, and I'll show you how to do that. But for this design, for this tutorial, I'm just going to make this part of the card, along with level damage, and initiative. Then what I did was I made a bunch of buttons, bunch of, because my text is white, so like the attack number will be white, so it'll be a white on a blue background for all these numbers here. We start generating the numbers. And then, oh, I also made a border, so I put a little white border around just to make it pop out a little bit more. And the health bar is going to be here on the bottom. So I got the health bar name right there. And then the health bar is going to be red. So you'll see the health bar start to drain as the enemy gets hit. All right, so now we'll turn off that grid and we'll get ready to save this. So this will be the stat card for the Goblin Warrior. All right, so we're going to save this as a PNG. You could do JPEG because we don't have anything that's transparent in this image, but since I've been working with RPG in a box, I've just been doing everything as a PNG. So we'll go to where we created the game. So we'll go to tutorial level, online, my game, and then images, and we'll just save it as enemy stats or whatever you want to save it as. Is that the right one? Hold on. Rename tutorial. Oh, sorry. All right, so we will go to tutorials and then images, and then we'll save it as enemy stats in tutorials. Okay. Now we'll go back into RPG in the box, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the image to this right here. So find the widget that we just made, the enemy stat background, and then go to, where's it at? Widget tools, and we're going to do an image. So we'll drag that over here, pull the handle so it covers the whole, all the grid squares. Click on the image, go to properties, and we want to find our image. Now you notice it doesn't show the image here, but that's no problem. We'll just save this. And now we'll have to reload the game. So tutorials here. And now if we go back, click on the image, and we should see it. So enemy stats. There it is. All right, so now we have our enemy stat card that will be ready for us to pull up in game. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and save this. And we will go to script editor and go to startup. And what we want to do is when the game starts, we want to load the widget. Let's drag this up, type in widget, and we want to do show widget. And then the widget ID will be this name here, so whatever you created. So I'm going to do Control C, and then Control V the name into the widget ID. And then we'll hit save. And then what this means is that when this game starts, it's going to load the map, load the player. It's going to give you the welcome message. And then after the message, it's going to show the widget. So we should be able to see the widget. So make sure you save it before you do. And we'll go ahead and hit play and see what it looks like. All right, so the game's loaded. So we'll do new game. It's loading up. Welcome to RPG in the box. And there's our stat card. So now what we're going to do is start working on the buttons. And then when we load it next time, we should see the health bar and start seeing some numbers here. Let's go ahead and exit out. All right, so the next thing we want to do is go back to the UI editor, go back to our widget, and let's find the progress bar. So we'll drop the progress bar into our widget. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. First thing we want to do is make a new widget, and this is going to be the button widget. And usually when I do this, I just make the same name, and then just add button to it. That way we know it's the button layer, which is the layer above the background layer. Now, what you'll have to do is make this the same. So this is going to be 11 by 16. And we want to make sure it's center right, so it lines up with the background image. And again, turn off the frame. We don't want to see the frame. One thing I did notice, I forgot about, was if we go back to enemy stat background, when I put the health bar in, it's going to cover my white border. So I can either turn the border off, or I have to move everything up a little bit so that the health bar doesn't cover my white border. Not a big deal. For now, I'm just going to leave the border on there. All right, so now we'll go back to the button widget and go to widget tools, and let's load that progress bar. All right, so now that progress bar is loaded. Let's go to the elements and want to make this red. All right, so now it's red. Outside border color. Can we do transparency? Yes. I don't want a border on this, so we'll just turn off the transparency. Background color. Let's just make the background color, which would be this part right here. Let's just make that black. Okay. And then we'll set, we'll link this to the character in the next little section of the video. Okay, so that's all set. So now we go back to enemy stat background. Then we need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, 5, 6. So 4, 5, 6. I need to put a text label. All right, so we go back to the button, find a text label, and we'll make it that big. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if we can copy paste this. No. Gotta make another one and make one more. Now, if you wanted to, let me save this real quick. Now, if you wanted to, in Photoshop, I made the character's name here as part of this image, the background image. But if you wanted to, you could have just kept the background, that word background, that white line. You could have just kept that blank, and then you could just key in, use a text label, and put in, you know, Goblin Warrior. Could have did it that way, but I just did it with the background being there. Okay, so go back to here. Now we want to come over 3 and go up 4. So we'll go back to the button, text label. We're going to come over 3, 1, 2, 3, go up 4. So right there, and same thing. Yeah, the reason I didn't do it is because my fonts are set to, I think on my theme, yeah, everything's white. So if I have a white background with white lettering, yeah, even though it does have like a little shadow, it'll be kind of hard to read. It would be better if there was a way to pick either to change the style or change the text through a script for these widgets, which I don't think is possible yet. So you just got to design accordingly. All right. Now the key thing to note, to keep in mind of here, is your element IDs, because you're going to need that when you start scripting this, so that the system knows, you know, which one of these boxes are you referring to. All right. So now we will save this, and now we'll test it. Let's go ahead and make this a number, just so we can see what the number looks like. So let's do a 1. Make this one a 2. Make this one a 3. I should make this one a double digit. So make this one 11. This one 12. 1. And 5. I'm pretty sure this should line up pretty good, but those circles were pretty small, those spheres. so it may not line up correctly, but we'll see. Hopefully it does. All right, so the game's loaded. It's loading the level. It's going to say the greeting. And now we have this with nothing in. Oh, I forgot one important step. Now we got to remember what this name is for this widget, because we got to load this widget after the other one. That's what I forgot to do. All right, so now we will go back to script editor, and let's make a duplicate of this one because we want to show the button widget. So we got the background widget. It's going to load first, and then this widget will load on top of that one. And then now we should have the widget with some wording on it, with the numbers. Okay, there we go. All right, so there's our numbers. The double digits load up seem to be in the correct spot somewhat. So it's not bad. The health bar looks good. So what I should have did was okay, so here's the stat bar. The numbering looks pretty good. I could have did a little bit better. It looks like I need to shift this over just a little bit, shift this one over a little bit, or maybe make it center. So we'll check the properties on our widget, see if we can center these numbers, and that might make it look better. The health bar did cover up my border, my white border, so that's looks kind of funny. But then again, it doesn't look too bad because when you look at it right away, you can see that that's a health bar. And so maybe it doesn't look that bad. All right, so now we will go back to the widget and see if we can adjust that a little bit. All right, so here, horizontal alignment, let's try center. I think that's where I might have screwed up, because these numbers are in the box, but they're not center, and my little circles, those were center. I mean, I could do a white border on this, but I think it looks okay. All right, so let's just see how that looks. All right. Huh. Okay, so on this side, it lined up perfect. On this side, it's too far to the right now. So this was center, which means if I probably put this left, it'll be perfect. So let's put that left. Feel free to skip if this is getting boring, because I messed up. All right, now we'll save it and test it again. Okay, so that looks better. I could always open up Photoshop again and then just move my blue circles over. I really can't make them any bigger because that kind of throws it off, but I could change the font size. So that's another thing. I could change the font size a little bit smaller, and that would probably fix that. But we won't worry about that. Or maybe we'll worry about that once we do the next part, which is the scripting. And I say that, but I'm probably just going to change it now. So we'll do 21. I do like watching when people make stuff, even when they mess up, because it shows me, you know, not everybody's perfect, and that I like to see other people's mistakes, because then you learn from other people's mistakes. Okay, so that should. All right, so the next part we'll do is the scripting. Okay, so in this next part, we're going to do the scripting. So what we're going to do first is go to the UI editor, go to widgets, and go to our button one. And we want to click on the health bar. Now, what we want to do is we want to put under the current value. So whatever this number here is what the red is going to show. And that's going to be entity, our goblin character dot stat, and then hit points. Now dot stat is a property that's already built into the character. So the character already has hit points. And I believe on the goblin, it's like 10 hit points. Now we're going to assign the health bar the maximum value, same thing. And that's going to be entity goblin.stat max hit points. So just type that information in. If we look over here at stats, you can see the stats that's already created. And it looks like, I'm pretty sure all these stats are created for each of the characters when you first make them. Now there are a couple of stats that we will have to create, and we'll do that here in a little bit after we get the health bar working. So we'll go ahead and save this. So now that the health bar should display and should get the information from the goblin. Now what we'll do, since I don't feel like, okay, so what we'll do is we'll go back to the map editor. We'll go to objects, and we'll pick a barrel. So we'll pick a barrel and we'll place it right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a script that says every time we hit the barrel, do damage to the goblin character. So this is like simulating like an attack, and update the widget showing his health. Okay. So let's see. So we got the barrel there. So let's go down to the barrel script. So where's that at? Yep, I didn't click on it. Here we go. So let's go down to the barrel script. When a character interacts with the barrel, what we want it to do is we'll do a quick script. We'll get rid of this message. We'll do a damage entity, and we're not going to be damaging the player. Instead, we're going to damage the entity, and make sure it's lowercase, and then a bracket, and then the name of the entity, which is goblin, and then we'll close out the bracket, and we'll do 1 damage. Now we'll validate it. It's good. And then we also have to show the widget. Okay, actually, I won't show the widget yet. I'm going to show you something, because this kind of drove me crazy. All right, so right now we have, if the barrel gets hit, or we click on the barrel, it's going to do damage to the character, the goblin one, and it should take away from the health on the widget. But there is one problem. Okay, so there it is. So that's all good. Now, if I come here to the barrel, oh, all right, so there's 2 problems. I forgot, when you drop in an object, your movement lines get erased. So make sure you you draw those back in, or the character is not going to be able to interact with the barrel. And since we're not going through the barrel, we'll just do an interaction one. So as long as he stands here, he can interact with the barrel. And we will hit save, and we will try again. All right, that's good. We'll upload to the barrel. Now if we click on the barrel, he takes damage. Taking damage again. Zoom the, there we go. So you can see he's taking damage, but this isn't updating. Okay, now there's a reason why it's not updating. And the reason why is because when we loaded the level, we said show widget, which it shows the widget. It's getting the information from the goblin, but then that's it. So if the goblin gets hit, there's nothing saying, hey, go back and find out what the new value is as far as his hit points. So that's where we got to do something. So the easiest way to do it is we click on the barrel again, click on entity properties, and we're going to add one more thing to this code. And what we're going to do is show widget. Even though the widget's already being shown, we'll do another one. And I'll take the widget name. Yeah, so we'll do another one. And what that's going to do is when it gets displayed, or when it calls to try to display it again, it's going to pull that value from the goblin. So that's how we're going to update the goblin getting hit every time. Okay? I hope that made sense. All right, so now we will try it again. And at first that was throwing me off because I was getting ready to do a whole, like, while, you know, the player's health is above 0, you know, figure out some way to try to update it. But then I realized I can just do a show widget and it would do it. All right, so now if we come over to the barrel, click on it, it takes damage, and his health bar goes down. And then my numbers look a little bit better now they've been resized. Now the only thing is, once he gets to 0, he disappears, but the health bar still shows a little bit of health. And we should make that go away once the enemy dies. So we might script that in later. Okay, now we want to update the numbers on the stat screen. So we will do that next. All right, so now, okay. All right, so now we are going to get, let's see, get these stats all up to date. So the first thing we're going to work on is this one, which is element 0004, and that's going to be our attack. So we can look back at our image. This first one is the attack. So what we want to do is go to our script editor. We'll make a new script, and we'll call it let's call it enemy stats. That way, if we were to make more than one. Okay. Now we'll get rid of that, and let's start writing this code. So what we want to do is say that the widget dot, or the widget, and we'll do a bracket and then the name of the widget. So I'm going to call this widget here. Let's go back to the button. Sorry. Yeah, click in this space to click on to get the widget information, not the button. So we can get the name of this widget. And then we'll close out the bracket. So it's this widget here, the enemy stat background button dot element, because we're pulling an element off the widget, and it's going to be 0004. And then that's a text. So that location has text in it. And then that's going to equal our entity, who is our goblin. And we are pulling his stat, which is, which is attack. All right, so that should work. To make sure. Okay, good. So we're using the widget enemy stat background button. The element of the widget is 004. So we come here. This element is 004. And then it's a dot text. So it's a text label. And we're saying that's going to equal the entity goblin. So that's our goblin character. And he has a stat called attack. Now stats preset. So there should be a preset property that says attack. So if we look over here at stats, our enemy characters should have these same stats that's defaulted. So we see one for attack, and there it is, attack. So if we wanted to do like one for defense, we would just do the same thing and then just make a text label for defense. But we're going to test out attack. So everything should be good. So we'll go ahead and test it. And actually, before we test it, let's take a look at what the stats of the goblin is. So we go to the voxel editor, click on the goblin character. We can check to see what his stats are. So he has a health stat, he has an attack stat, a defense stat, and a movement stat. So that's all good. So the value we should get when the game loads is a 5. Now the value that we have in the widget right now is 11. So if it loads and it has an 11, that means it didn't work. But if it loads and it has the 5, then it worked. So let's take a look. All right, so that's good. This is good. And it's not good because that is an 11. All right, so what did I do wrong? Oh, we made the enemy stat script, but it never gets called in the game. So what we need to do is go to startup, and we need to add a script right here. So we'll do an execute script, and then find our script, our enemy stats, and now it should work. Now this is the way that I figured out how to do it. There could be a better way to do all this, but this works and it gives you an idea on how you can do it, and then you can improve on it. All right, so the Goblin Warrior stat works. Oh, there it is. So we have 5 now. So it has 5, so we know it's working. Now we'll get the rest of these to work. All right, so good. That's all set. We go back to our enemy stats. And now we're going to do the next one. Now we did the attack. Now we want to do, let's see, we want to do defense and speed. So we'll do both of those next. So let's go back to our enemy stat, the button one. So that's going to be 3 and 2. So 3 and 2, so we got script next. All right, so basically we're just going to copy this, paste it in there twice. We're still using this same widget, so we don't have to type all that again. And I think I said 3 and 2. So let me just make sure that's correct, because we need to make sure it's correct when we start doing this. So 3, this is our 3. So 3 is going to be our defense, and 2 is going to be our speed. So defense and then speed. All right. So 3 and 2. So this should be defense. And this is either going to be called movement or speed. We'll try speed first, and we'll take a look at it. Stats. So our defense is called defense, and our speed is called speed. Good. So that didn't change. All right, so let's take a look at our card again. Next is level, damage, and initiative. Now initiative, I know for a fact, isn't on there. Damage might be, so let's take a look. Do we have a damage one? I don't see a damage, though the character does have damage. So we'll try something and see if it works. I'm not sure if it's going to work. And level. Level's in there, so we know level will work. So let's go ahead and set the level to. Let's do all the ones we know. So we know these three and level. Go to stats, look at level, and level is level. All right, so copy that. Oops, paste it in. Take a look at the element. And the element is number 7. And that's going to be level. All right, so if this works, so let's take a look at our character again. Make sure we save all this. So his attack is 5, his defense is 1, and his movement, which I believe is his speed, should be 2. Or actually, speed is 48. That's speed. Okay. So it's either going to be, I'm not sure which one's speed, so it's either going to be 48 or it could be a 2, but as long as it's not 12, then we know, or I'm sorry, 3, then we know it worked. So let's give this a weird number just so we know it works. Okay. And then let's see if he has a level. He might not have a level. So we might have to script that out. Speed 16, that could be his speed. Nope, that's our animation speed. All right, let's just see if this works. So we should have a 5, something for speed. Defense is 1. We shouldn't have a 99. The speed 1. All right, we got a 5, 48 for speed. Makes sense. Level 1 of 1. So I think this was a 12. So that works. So the only thing that didn't work was defense. It says null. So I might have spelt it wrong. Oh, it's wrong. Defense. Okay, so now it should all work. So now if we play the game, okay. All right, so we have our attack, our defense, our speed, and our weapon. So all that's working. So the only thing to create now is damage and initiative. Now there's a couple ways we could do this. One way we could do it on the actual character. So we go to the character here and bring them up. We can go down to his stats and we can create a damage property and a initiative property. But since we've already made the character and he's on the map, if you did it that way, it would save it, and then anytime you draw, you put this character on the map, it would keep those same values. So you wouldn't have to keep doing it. But I've already made the character, so we'll just do it from this character here. So if I go to the properties, scroll down on the goblin, and then we'll make a new property. Now this first property, we're going to call it damage. And the value is going to be a number. And we'll say, just for testing, we'll say the damage is like 55. Right now, the damage doesn't mean anything. We don't have anything scripted for it to do anything, so it's not going to do 55 damage. But if it displays the 55, then we know that the property's been created and we can use it in game. We'll make another property called initiative. All right, so initiative, and then that's going to be a value, and we'll say the value is starting value, or whatever value. We can set initiative for this character right now. We'll say his initiative is like 66, just so we know that it's working. Now in my game, I am using initiative, and I have it so when the battle starts, each character, the character and the enemy, gets assigned an initiative number, and then whoever has the highest number gets to attack first. And then that's in a while loop, and then that just keeps going as long as the battle's going. So that's a good way to use initiative. Okay, so that's all set. So make sure we save it. And then let's see, so that's set. So now all we have to do is create it in the script editor. And now we're going to set a property for it. Now the property's already been set, so we don't need to set it. We just need to do this here. Show it on the widget. All right, so now we are going to do widget, same thing. Come to the widget editor, and we're going to do damage first. So we got to find out what these two numbers are. So we have a 6 and we have a 5. So 5 and 6. So 5 and 6. All right, on our goblin, instead of doing a stat, it's going to be a property. And then the name. So we have damage, and we have property, initiative. Where did I write that at? Oh. Don't judge me. I'm an artist, not a writer. So my grammar's never been good. Okay, so that's there. So initiative, and hit apply. All right, so now when the game loads, it should load all these numbers here. So we should get those numbers and our damage, which was like 55, and then like 66. Let's test it out, see if it works. All right, new game. All right, let's see what we got. So everything's good up until initiative. Which, let's take a look at that. I copy and pasted it, so it should be correct. I thought, well, maybe there's a space there, but it's not. So that's good. Maybe it's too long. So let's make this int. Okay, so I figured it out, and I don't know how I missed this, but I was so concerned about, let's put this back. I was so concerned about the brackets and the quotation marks and, you know, the stats and properties and everything, the numbers. I wasn't paying attention to the actual name. And I guess I had an L there, an L or 1, I forget which it was. So that's all that was wrong. So I deleted that off the end of the name, and then now everything works. So now if I hit play, the game should load and it should have all those stats in there. So those are things you learn or you can overlook as you're making your game. Yep, so now we have our attack, defense, speed, level, damage, and initiative. And if we click on this barrel, our little guy starts taking damage. Then we can add on to the code if we wanted to and say that, you know, if the goblin is below, yeah, well, actually we'll go ahead and do that. I wasn't planning on doing that, but we will do it. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to make a new script. Let's call this Goblin Death. And what we're going to say is if, okay, so when the goblin dies, it's going to get rid of the widget. So all we're going to do is hide the widget. Get the widget name. All right, so we're going to hide this one. Nope, that's not it. Copy. Paste. So I'm going to hide that widget. And then same thing, but we're going to hide the other widget, the button widget. And we're going to apply it. And we're going to save it. So Goblin Death, go back to our Goblin, click on Death, run the script, and it's going to be Goblin Death. And save. So now once we kill off the Goblin, once he dies, then it's going to turn off his stat card. So let's check this out. There's one thing I haven't looked into is why he'll die, but then he'll still have a little bit of health showing on his stat bar. Okay, so let's go check this out. He's taking damage, and he's dead, and he's done. Alright, so I hope this video helps, and I hope it was informative. This is Silent Samurai. Make games, make gains, and I'll see you in the next video.